This is the Honeywell T6360 standard room thermostat, and this has been around since the 1970s. So you will have this on a central heating system if you've got a Y plan or an S plan, and you could also have it on the older combi boilers. So how it works is basically you turn this dial here, and when you hear it clicking, it's either turning on or turning off, so it's an on and off switch. So very old technology, but Resideo have produced a replacement for this room stat, and it is this one, which is the DT4 room stats. Now there's 5 different versions of this room stat. There is a wired version, there are RF versions, and there are also open therm versions of this room stat. So 5 different versions, so depending on what you want to use it on or what you're replacing, you will need to get the correct DT4 room stat. Now I've got a DT4R RF version of this stat, and I'm going to be installing it on my boiler here at home. So if you have a older combi boiler with a time clock built into it, and you want to replace your old RF room stat for a nice looking up-to-date one, then you can use this DTR4 stat. So let's get rid of the old versions and let's have a look and see exactly what we get in this box. So straight away, if we open the box, you can see there is a wiring diagram to tell us how to wire this stat up. We've also got some paperwork and manuals for us to help us. And then we have the stat itself, and it comes on this fancy little stand. So it'll stand up. And there's also a wall plate so you can fix it on the wall. So if we take out this box, you can see this is the sender unit, which is wired into the boiler, which then by radio frequency speaks to the stat. So again, this is an on and off version of this stat. It's not an open therm version, there is a different version for that. What else do we get in this box? So we get the wall plate for this. So if you want to put this on the wall, you can do this. And there's some fixing screws and plugs for fixing it to the wall. So that's what we get in the box. So let's have a look at the sender receiver box first. Now, as you can see, there's just one screw here. Not messing around underneath, trying to undo anything, so just undo that screw and it just pulls apart. So that's the back of the box, so you can see the pins, and if you look at the wall plate, it looks pretty much like any Honeywell wall plate. We've got an earth wire, we've got a neutral, and we've got 2 live wires. So if you've got a 230 volt, say like an RT switch on a Valent boiler, you can link the live in from that one into your A, and then you go out at your B and go to your RT switch. So if you've only got one wire to switch the boiler on or off and it's 230 volts, then you can use that second live wire. Obviously we need a live and neutral and earth to make this work. Now if you've got a combi boiler where you've got 24 volt switching, then you can go in at A and out at B, and that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be putting live, neutral and earth to this side, and we're going to be putting in at A and out at B. So this will replace pretty much any room stat you've got out there when you're working on a combi boiler. It will also, if you've unfortunately got an air source heat pump, it will work on that as well. It will also work on cooling, so it will cover all aspects of heating and cooling, which is pretty good. So that's what you get on the plate. If we take the back off here, which is pretty easy, just pull off, you can see there are 2 batteries which are rechargeable. You'll need to replace them. and depending on which model you get will depend on how long the batteries last. It's between between 1.5 and 3.5 years. And this has also been introduced to replace Honeywell's DTS92E thermostat, because this looks very much up to date, where the DTS92E now is looking pretty old. So that's what you get in the box. That's what's inside the stats. So let's get on with it and let's get this installed on my combi boiler. First, let's turn this boiler off. Now we need to isolate the fuse spur and remove this 3 amp fuse. And as always, let's carry out our safe to touch test before we touch anything. Don't forget the procedure: prove it, use it, prove it, then it's safe to touch it. And then finally we need to carry out our safe isolation procedure, making sure we haven't got voltage between earth and neutral, earth and live and neutral. Now what we've got on this Ariston boiler is 2 plugs. We've got our main power coming in, live, neutral and earth. Then we've got this white plug here, which is the one we're going to use for our controls. Now if we had Ariston controls, we will be using this orange one, which is the bus connection. But because we've not got Ariston controls and we're using third-party ones, then we're going to be using this switch here. So you notice it says no 230 volts, so this is 24 volts. All Aristons are 24 volts, they haven't got any 230 volt switching. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect a cable here to pick up the live, neutral and earth. Then I'm going to run a separate cable for these 2 here, which are our switch out and switch back. Now the reason why I'm using 2 cables is because this is 230 volts and this is low volt switching. I don't want any cross contamination from the 230 volts into the 24 volts. So if you do this and you're using low voltage and high voltage, don't use 5-core cable, because you could actually get the voltage leaking across here and end up blowing the board. It's very rare, but I have known it happen. So that's why I'm going to be running 2 cables instead of 1 5-core cable. So now you can see I've wired the live, neutral and earth into there. And I've got my switched wires here. Brown hopefully is going out, blue's coming back. It could be the other way, but we'll find out in a bit. So that's how I've wired this boiler up. 2 separate cables, remember. It's easy as that. Now, that's the wiring up in the boiler. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put the unit on here, because what I've done is I've hidden the boiler in a cupboard. So I've made a cupboard on wheels here, so I can wheel it out to get to the boiler, and it literally takes a minute to undo the screws and wheel it out. So I want to see the stat here to make sure it's receiving and stuff like that. I've also got a hole in the cupboard as well, so I can see inside, see if anything's happening with the boiler. So that's just something we wanted to do, hide the boiler until other changes to the house. And because it's in Will's bedroom, so the stat's going to go on the wall here. So first thing I need to do is stick it on the wall, mark it. Now on this back plate here, there is slots which will pick up on like a standard bat box, and you could actually change the standard room stat by using those screws there, well, the screw holes there. And then there's 4 screw holes in each, one in each corner. So you've got all options. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these 2 slots here, and because there's no weight in this, I'm just going to use these plasterboard pigtail fixings into this wall, just 2 of them. So let's get it marked. So that's the position of the stat. I'm just going to mark where the 2 holes are going to go and where I want the hole to go through for the wiring. So somewhere here. So I can drill right the way through now, through there, and then I just need to put the pigtails there, feed the wires through, wire it into there, and then get it commissioned. So that's the wire through, and I've put these two pigtails in. Now if you noticed, I've put some green tape on this cable, and this is the live. So obviously I've put the cover back on the boiler, and I wanted to know which one was which. So that's my live wire, that's my switched wire. So that was just made it easier for me to be able to recognise the cables when I pushed them through. Now that's the back plate fixed. Now let's get these wires in. Now technically, because this relay box is made solely out of plastic, I don't really need to install this earth wire, which I'm doing at the moment. Now there is an earth connection there if you want to link another earth to it. I'm just putting the earth wire in there because I just always do if there's an earth. But technically, I don't need the earth because this relay box is all plastic. So that's the live, neutral and earth done. Let's get these switched wires done. Now remember on this, we don't need the earth. So, do the brown into A. And the blue into B. So that's the wiring done. That was easy. Let's put the fuse back in. Turn her on. Well, that's a good start, it's correct. Now before I put the cover on, I'm just going to make sure it's wired correctly. So black onto the earth, onto the neutral. We should just have continuity, which we have. And then off, and then onto the live. We've now got power there. Check between the neutral and the live. And we've got 230 volts there. So that's perfect. Now between A and B, we shouldn't have anything. We shouldn't have continuity anyway. Which we haven't, because we won't get that now until the stat's paired and it works. So at the moment, the stat is off. Now I've turned the power back off and I can now get the front cover on. Simple as that. Let's get the power back. So I don't know whether you'll see this, but we've got a little flashing green light here from the RF signal looking for the stat. Now when the stat comes, there's a little bit of paper, and I don't know whether you can see it here, but there's a little bit of paper here where this battery is. It's just a tiny bit of paper. I don't know if there's one at this end. No, there isn't one at that end. So just watch out for that. This is to stop the stat coming on when it's in transit or in the other van. Anyway, the light now is solid and not flashing, so it must have paired with the stat. This here tells us that it is paired. So this is now paired and it's telling us it's 19.5 and it's just put the heating on. So the stat came set at its maximum temperature, which is 28 degrees. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take it lower. I haven't got the boiler turned on, so it's not doing anything to the boiler. But I'm just going to take it down to 12 degrees, and now this should go off. Which it has done. So if I turn it back on again, turn it back up, put it 27.5, because it's 21.5 in here at the moment. This should come back on, which it has done. So that means that's paired with that, and that's working that. Let's see if it turns the boiler on and off. So like I say, the boiler is off, so let's turn it on. So you can see we've got our hot water at 60 and our flow temperature at 55, but we've got no square here to say that it's receiving a signal from the stat. So let me, now it's 22 degrees, so I need to go over the 22 degrees. So we just had a click. We should get a square here, which we have, and now the boiler should set off. Which it is doing. So you can see the boiler's up and running, flames on there. Again, if I press the button and I go down to the lower, let's go down to 10 degrees. When this goes off, we should hear a click. And we should lose a square there, and the boiler goes off. So this is now working, this boiler, on the central heating system. Now on the receiver sender box, now Honeywell like to call it a relay box, there's an override button. So if you press that, no matter what it's doing, it'll bring the boiler on. So you can just hear the boiler firing up now. There she goes. And if you want to come out of it, press it again. Now, you've seen how we've installed this room stat, and we've seen how we can change the temperatures via this stat itself. So we've seen all that, but is there anything else this stat can do? Well, yeah, there is. So if we press this middle button for more than 5 seconds, it takes us into installer mode. So the first one what comes up is PA, which is the parameters of the stat. If I press the plus button, that's our RF signal, so we can check that. And if we press it again, the BR means brightness. So if I press the button again, you can see it's set on 1. If I take it to 3, press the button again, you can see now the stat is a lot brighter. So obviously the brighter you're going to have the stat, the quicker the battery is going to go. So now we've changed the brightness. If we press the plus again, that gives us our software, whatever the software version is. Now, the software versions of this is Ramesses or Rames. I think it's Rames, or I think Ramesses. I think Ramesses one of the pharaohs. Anyway, Rames 2.3 protocol. So what that means is basically what this can talk to, and I believe this stat can pair with 2 versions of the intergas boilers. So the intergas boilers basically got one of these stats, and if you want to change your stat and use this, but it's only 2 versions of it. And there could be some other boilers what use the Ramis 2 and 3 protocol, whatever that is. But that's what this software is on this. So that's the installer level. Now there's another setting called the Eco setting. So if I wake the stat up and press it again, you can see it says on. I press it again, it says EC, so Eco, so we put it on. And now what we can do is we have up to 24 hours for this to run. So if you want to come in and it just to run for an hour, you can do that, but you can actually go up to 24 hours. And if you want it, you press that. So now you see we've got 2 little different signals here. We've now got this green, it's a leaf I think, which means it's the Eco button. So if we want to come out of it again, we press the middle button again and we go down to 0. Press the button again and we've just got the normal signal there. And the 23 is what the, well 23.5 is what the temperature is in the room now. So there's a couple of other things what this stat can do. So that's my video on this Resideo Honeywell Home DT4R radio frequency room stat. So I hope you've liked the video and I'll catch you on the next one, guys. Cheers.